Good evening. I trust all of you enjoyed your dinner. It sounds like we had a lot of great conversation, which is, as Mike said, that's really one of the highlights for me about this great event is getting to see so many good friends and having a chance to catch up with our family, with our education family. I'm Keith Poston. I'm the President and Executive Director of the Public School Forum of North Carolina, and I'd like to add my welcome to you for this truly festive occasion. I also want to thank again our students. They're still in school, so they're packing up and heading home. Their folks have been hanging out there waiting for them. But I want to again thank the wonderful and talented students from Carnage Middle School. We certainly believe that arts and music are an integral part of education, and so are teachers like Winifred Marisha. So thank you to them. Now, as Mike Pretty said, our annual Education Leadership Award is named after the late Jay Robinson. Dr. Robinson was one of our state's most distinguished education leaders with a 50-year career that took him from a Cabarrus County football coach to the superintendent of Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools to a top post with the UNC system and chairman of the State Board of Education. Jay was also the first president of the Public School Forum of North Carolina. Now, I know a lot of you in the room, some of you knew Jay, and I think he would be pleased to see another great leader like Ann Goodnight being honored with an award in his name. Now, it's been a year since we all gathered here, almost to the day, for this event, and thanks really to the support of all of you in this room. The Public School Forum could not do what we do without all of you. I'm very proud of the work that we're doing, really particularly if you're looking back over the last 2 years since our last study group on expanding educational opportunity in North Carolina. In particular, are very proud of our North Carolina Resilience and Learning Project that is working in schools to help them better support children who are dealing with trauma and with adverse childhood experiences. Your support has also made possible our work with our Racial Equity Initiative, our Beginning Teacher Leadership Network, our Education Policy Fellowship Program, and this year, since it's an election year, this is also the year that we have our Institute for Educational Policymakers, where we have sessions all around the state for candidates of any party to come learn about how education policy is made. And of course, our Center for After-School Programs, and last but not least, our weekly television program, Education Matters. So all those things that we're able to do, we rely on the generosity and support of friends like you. Now, those are a few things that we do, but let me tell you who we are. We believe in public education. No apologies. No apologies for that. Our vision is every child in North Carolina has the opportunity to succeed and reach their full potential. And it starts with high-quality educational opportunities beginning at birth in every county across this state. And I was thinking earlier, and of course this is the kind of thing, when you work in policy and education policy, I'm thinking about Leandro, but I was thinking about the Leandro decision. In fact, Ann Goodnight and I were just talking about it. It was 20 years ago that the North Carolina Supreme Court found that we were not meeting our obligation to children in North Carolina to provide access to a sound basic education. That was 20 years ago. That was before my daughter was born, who is graduating from high school this coming weekend. And it just struck me to think about, she's now finishing school. This has sort of been the situation. How many more? I mean, that's basically an entire generation, an entire 12 plus years of kids who've been going through school and not really getting everything they need. I mean, how many more is okay? I mean, how many more classes are we going to let go before we do something? But at the end of the day, for the Public School Forum, I mean, we want every hometown in North Carolina to be a place where anyone can succeed, and where you don't have to leave that hometown unless you want to. I mean, shouldn't that be our goal, right? I mean, shouldn't we be able to be where we want to be and succeed and do the things we want to do? And we believe that starts with education. Now, as Mike mentioned at the start of the evening, we've been recognizing individuals since 2000. And we wouldn't be able to do that without our sponsors. So I do want to recognize them right now. Our Champion of Education sponsor this year is the Watson School of Education at UNC Wilmington. Our great Dean, Van Dempsey, is here. UNC Wilmington continues to grow as one of our state's top programs preparing our future teachers. So thank you, Van. Thank you. Our Friends of Education sponsors are, and we'll give them an applause after I mention all, the Burroughs Wellcome Fund, Investors Management Corporation, Medical Mutual, SAS, Schwartz and Shaw, the North Carolina Science, Mathematics, and Technology Education Center, the SMT Center, UNC Chapel Hill School of Education, and Wes and Marianne Wheeler. Thank you. Our community sponsor is Duke Energy. Let's give them a round of applause, too. Now, we have about 40 sponsored tables, as you can see from this. This is amazing up here. This is really cool. So I'm not going to read every one of them, but I do want to thank all of them. So they're scrolling across the screen right now, and they're also in your program, so please take a look at them. But we could not put on an event, and we wanted to be a special event for our honorees without these table sponsors. So let's give them a round of applause. Now, one very important thing that our sponsors allow us to do is to seat teachers and educators at all of these tables and invite them and extend invitations to them free of charge. So, speaking of teachers, it truly is an honor and a privilege of mine, and even in a small way, to help all of you as teachers elevate your voices. Now, frankly, after watching y'all last week, I'm not sure that you need my help in elevating your voices. You're doing a pretty good job. I'm going to ask in a moment, I'm going to ask the teachers to stand up, but I want to highlight a few special ones here. We are actually honored to be joined tonight by not one, but several North Carolina Teachers of the Year. We have, as Mike mentioned, we have Laura Bilbrough Berry. Laura's here. She is our first, there she is back there. Laura is our first J. Robinson Award winner. She was the first North Carolina Teaching Fellow to be a North Carolina Teacher of the Year. We have Karen Dickerson. Karen is here. Where's Karen? There's Karen over there. And we have current Teacher of the Year for a little while longer, Lisa Godwin. And there's Lisa. Lisa, you have been a wonderful, wonderful ambassador for teachers. And last but not least, we have our brand new Burroughs Wellcome North Carolina Teacher of the Year, Freebird Mckinney, right here up front. There's Freebird. We're so, there you go, stand up, there you go. So we look forward to getting to know Freebird. I tell you, every year, that's one of the cool, that was my job. Every year I get to know all these Teachers of the Year through the Public School Forum and through our advisory group. And every year I keep thinking, man, the next one can't be as good as the one before. And then it's like they keep coming and they keep coming. And I'm starting to get an idea that there's just a lot of great teachers across North Carolina. Just a lot of great teachers. And so what I'd like to do, if you're currently a classroom teacher in North Carolina, would you please stand? If you're a current teacher right now. All right, we're going to get an even bigger group. Yeah, I'll keep standing. If you've ever been a classroom teacher in North Carolina, stand up. If you've ever been one, look at this. Thank you. That's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks so much. Now, at a gathering like this, there are too many special guests to name all of them, but I do want to highlight a couple of groups: our Public School Forum Board of Directors members and our Public School Forum members, our advisor group. If you're a board member or an advisor for the Public School Forum, please stand. I'd like to give you all a round of applause. Our board members, thank you. See, it's just like, I see these people standing up like, oh, I forgot to see you. I didn't see you before, so now I'm going to catch up with you afterwards. We do have a few members of the, that I do want to recognize. I know we have a lot of local elected officials, but I do want to recognize our representatives from the North Carolina General Assembly. We have Representative Gail Adcock is here. We have Representative Craig Horn is here. I know I saw Craig when I walked in. Representative John Fraley is here. Representative Joe John is here. There's Joe. And Representative Greg Meyer, I saw him standing up over there. Let's give all these guys, we appreciate you. All right, finally, I do want to recognize my friend Peter Hans. Where's Peter? I saw him, we were talking earlier. Peter Hans, there he is. There's Peter. Peter was just named to head up the North Carolina Community Colleges, so we're glad to see you in that role. I had a reporter ask me the other day about Peter, and I said, well, I've known Peter for a long time. I said, but when they introduced him, I saw him standing on the stage with Tim Moore and Phil Berger and Roy Cooper, so I thought that was a pretty good start right there. So you get all those guys to say he was a good choice, he must be all right. So if I missed anyone, I apologize, but I appreciate all of you coming. Now, we're going to move into our award presentation segment of the program, but I do have one special recognition I'd like to make first. Now, if you're not on the board of the Public School Forum of North Carolina, you may not know that our chairman, Mike Pretty, is stepping down. Wait a second, there you go. There's Mike right there. See, we even got Mike on the screen. Mike is stepping down next month as our chairman of the board of directors after 4 years serving 2 terms as chairman. Now, Mike did not know I was doing this. Mike didn't know I was doing this, which makes me a little nervous because now as executive director, I report to the board of directors, which means that Mike is basically my boss. Now, and soon after Mike became chairman of the Public School Forum, he told me one thing I needed to know about him as a longtime school superintendent. He said, Keith, babies like surprises, superintendents don't. Now, so I'm sorry for surprising you. Now, there are many great things I learned besides that he doesn't like surprises over the last 4 years. He is without question one of the finest men I have ever known. We have worked together side by side for 4 years. He loves North Carolina to his core and has devoted his entire life to the public schools of North Carolina. So we've spent a lot of time together during a very challenging time of transition for the forum. And y'all have to. Mike was only elected to serve 2 years initially, 2014, 2016, and he volunteered to stay on to help see us through this transition. Now, just a few weeks after he made that decision, Mike lost his son, Zach, tragically. Now, no one, certainly not me, would have blamed Mike if he'd have said, you know, I think I'm not going to be able to take this on right now. You know, I mean, I think all of us were thinking that. Mike has volunteered to do this and this happened, but he did stay on, and I'm thankful for that. So I want to invite Mike up to the stage because I want to give him a special recognition. Now, someone with as distinguished a career as Mike Pretty, he's already received about every honor and every award and accolade out there. But we did ask Governor Cooper to help us out by recognizing Mike with the Old North State Award for his outstanding community service to the state of North Carolina. something? Let me say something real quick. All right. Thank you. It's now my pleasure to introduce our speakers who are going to talk to you about our guest of honor and Goodnight. First up is Lucera Galvan. Lucera is a Goodnight Scholar alum who is now an analyst with IQVIA. If you don't know, is it IQVIA? Is that how you say it? If you're driving down 40 and wonder where the quintile sign went, that's what that is now on a 40. So Lucera is now an analyst, but she wants to tell you about the impact that the Goodnights had on her. Lucera?
Good evening. It is an honor to stand in front of you today to recognize a magnificent woman's dedication, effort, and enthusiasm to North Carolina's education. As he said, I am Lucero Galvan Núñez Ruiz Barrera, or also known as Lucy, and I am a proud product of the Goodnight Scholarship Program, which is a scholarship given to deserving students, middle class, wanting to study STEM-related fields at NC State through the generous efforts and contributions of Dr. and Mrs. Goodnight. My sister and I are actually, I was part of the second incoming class of Goodnight Scholars at NC State, but my sister and I were the first in our family to ever attend a higher education, 4-year college. This is taking into consideration immediate and extended family members. And just to clarify, in Latino terms, family means mother, father, aunt, uncle, cousin, 4 times removed. So in an extended generation of family members, we were the first to do this. Thank you. Thank you. We were the first, but we certainly weren't the only ones. You see, given the liberty and opportunity to study at a 4-year university was a game changer for my family and I. That didn't just become my experience at NC State, it became my entire family's experience. My parents have always dedicated their life to working and providing the basic essentials to our family. Both of my parents were farm workers. Coincidentally, they both met each other picking oranges in the fields of Florida before moving to North Carolina and working in hog farms. They have always been dedicated to their work that they essentially never had the chance to come and visit me at NC State until my junior year. It was 3 years that I was at NC State going through all of these life-changing experiences, and it was then until that they had the opportunity to come and visit me. I was so happy and I was so proud to have them there, to take them to the library, giving Howling Cow ice cream, to take them to look at the SAS building with their tall and mesmerizing, glistening windows, to walk across the brickyard and just people watch, just look at students and imagine what they're studying and what their future holds for them. My parents were so mesmerized that after showing them any aspect at NC State, they would be like, "Mija, are you sure that this ice cream is made from cows here at NC State?" "Yes, Mom." "Mija, are you sure that you can just go into that building and eat all you want?" Referring to the dining halls. "Yes, Dad." It was funny because before NC State, they were always very proud of NC State, go NC State and everything. But after their visit, my dad went to the bookstore and he bought this big, bright red sweater that says NC State Dad in bold. And even to this day, which has been years and years after my graduation, he still wears that to work on top of all of his safety gear to show everyone that he's a proud NC State dad. Thank you. Coincidentally, as they saw that all of their daughters were reaching for higher education, they also became invested in their quest for higher education. My parents didn't get much education, but now that we are older and that we can show them, they have gotten into the initiative of learning cursive, learning how to sign their name, complex math problems such as multiplying fractions. It is that they saw our effort in the schools at university, that our daily conversations weren't just, how did school go? But more like, what did you learn? What can you teach me? And if it was something complex, how can I break it down to them so they can also understand? You see, Mrs. Goodnight, you gave me an opportunity, but you also gave it to my parents as well. Sending me to college also sent them. Thank you. Through the Goodnight program, I was also very honored to receive an incentive or a stipend to do something during the summer instead of going back home and probably doing chores all day. I received an internship with Student Action with Farm Workers, and I went out into the Carolinas, into the fields, and learned more about the lives of farm workers in North Carolina and in South Carolina. I was able to see more of what my parents have been through years before even I was born, and I was able to connect with them even more. Through that stipend, it not only stopped at the internship, but through the stipend, I was also able to become a research assistant, providing music therapy to farm workers that undergo tremendous depression and loneliness being away from home. It was also because of you that you didn't even only touch my parents, but because through this initiative and through this stipend, I was also able to get to know them more and also able to learn more about farm workers around North Carolina. They say that behind every student or every person, there is a village. And you, Mrs. Goodnight, you are a tribal leader in one of the many tribes that have helped me to get to where I am. Because of you, I stand here today, a proud graduate of the Wolfpack family. I stand before you today as a member of the scientific research community that aims to better the health of others. I stand proud and mostly humble on the opportunities you invested in me. But most importantly, I am thankful because without even knowing my name, without knowing anything about me, you believed in me. You opened a door that not every person wants to open. Having the resources is one thing, but having the initiative and the drive to change the lives of others is another. You became that person to which I will forever be thankful for because, as I said before, you gave an opportunity for me to make memories, and not only for myself, but so also for my parents. My dad always said that if he were given the opportunity to study, he would have become great. And because of you and through the opportunities you invested in me, we are both great. And I thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucero. Folks, it's life-changing. It's life-changing. Our next speaker is UNC System President Margaret Spellings. President Spellings has been the president of the UNC System since 2015. Margaret.
Thank you, Keith, and thank you, Mike. You didn't tell me I was going to have to follow Lucy. Lucy, you give our work meaning and a face. Thank you for telling your story. Thank you. I also want to recognize the Goodnight family that's here tonight. I told Jim that tonight he is Mr. Ann Goodnight. He laughed. There are a lot of reasons why I'm glad to be here tonight, but most important is really the simplest reason, and that is because, like many of you, really all of you, I count Ann as a really good friend. And I'm so glad that she's receiving the recognition that we all know she richly deserves. When I arrived in North Carolina a little more than 2 years ago, I thought I'd be ready for a big state with big personalities. I came from Texas, and I had worked with Tar Heels before, like the mighty Governor Jim Hunt, who led this state and really exemplified what an education governor really is. I knew North Carolina was a leader. We in Texas and North Carolina, we were doing a lot of the same things at the same time in a very bipartisan way, and that there was a passion in this state for education, especially for higher education in particular. The stories and the legend of really being the oldest public university in the land. But as you might have remembered, about 2 years ago, I didn't arrive here in North Carolina at a particularly calm period. I had a lot to navigate, and Anne's friendship from day one, her guidance from day one, was invaluable to me both professionally and personally. I had a lot to learn, and I had a great teacher in Anne. At my very first Board of Governors meeting at SAS, Anne was there. And I know that she will be there for my last Board of Governors meeting, which I hope doesn't come anytime soon. Working in North Carolina, I've found that a lot of people who care about this work, and there's an awful lot of people who are happy to let you know when you're doing it wrong. But there's a smaller set of people who are willing to get up and take action, pushing for reform and supporting schools and teachers and leaders and educators. And there's an even smaller set who take the time to learn deeply about the work they're supporting, so much so that they become thought leaders themselves. No longer just funding or supporting efforts, but truly leading them. And among that select group, Anne stands out as a leader among leaders for her intelligence, her passion, and her integrity. I've been in public policy my whole career, and I know well the value of having someone like Anne in the trenches with you, someone who's watching your back and helping advance the charge against what we know can be strong headwinds. It takes leadership to move a state forward. Progress in North Carolina requires coalition building. It requires staying power. It requires people who can command respect from every corner, every sector, and every level. North Carolina is a leader in public education, and while at times it may seem preordained as part of our DNA, and this state and its people, it's not. We know it's not true. Support for public education is in our muscle memory, but not our DNA. Our excellence continues because of individuals, people who can rally a state to see the inherent and lasting value of investing in people, especially its children. Because we know education leads to a better life, a better society, and a better world. And it's because of that relentless fight, a never-ending but always worthy fight to improve our schools, colleges, and universities, and to protect the gains we have made over the years. That's what makes North Carolina a leader in public education. So while the University of North Carolina is one of the world's most impressive, diverse, and impactful systems of higher education, may be taken for granted by some in this state from time to time, or seems like a baseline rather than an achievement that has been nurtured and built over decades, we must remember its leadership and impact is because of people like Anne. She knows that progress in pockets isn't good enough, that changing systems is what will give every child a better life. She knows that change doesn't happen overnight, that it takes sustained giving, a long-term strategy, and constant vigilance to make sure things aren't just being talked about, but they're being done and done well. And she knows that kindness, friendship, and compassion are the foundation to it all. and she practices that kindness with everyone she meets and works with. From your vision and support for the UNC system through your service on the Board of Governors, and from your work at NC State through initiatives and programs too numerous to name, to your passion and energy for K-12 education and early childhood education, to your recent service to helping lead the My Future NC Commission, your impact on this state and its education system is monumental, Anne. I'm proud to call you a friend and a partner, a comrade in arms, working to improve the prospects of every child and every North Carolinian through education. Thank you, Anne. Congratulations.
Thank you, President Spellings. I think we're in good hands in this state in a lot of ways, and I think this is the people here and the people you're hearing from, and Anne, I hope you're hearing that you're changing lives, and what you're doing matters. Our final tribute speaker, the Education Governor, Jim Hunt.
Well, thank you very much. And I want to tell you, it is great to look across this room, a place where I've presided over emerging issues forums and a lot of other meetings over the years, to see all the people here tonight who are champions, every one of you, champions for public education. We are here tonight and we're talking about this great honoree and her work. But you are working. I know a lot of you. In my day, I knew all of you. But you're wonderful leaders for our schools and our children and our future. And folks, I know we've had some tough times in some ways. But I want to tell you, the supporters for public education are coming back in North Carolina. We're on our way. We're going a long way. And you all are doing it. And how appropriate it is that we're here tonight to honor and to tell the story of this great woman, this great leader, who has done so much for all of us. And you've heard those stories. Listen to this young lady here. Wasn't that amazing to hear her talk about her life and how it's been changed by the Goodnight scholarships? And this great president of the University of North Carolina. Let me tell you something. I know a lot about college presidents. We've got one of the best in all of America. Thank goodness for you, Margaret Spellings. We're thrilled you're in North Carolina. And don't you ever go back to Texas. Well, in a way, Ann Goodnight's story is a North Carolina story. She was born and raised here. She's the daughter and granddaughter of public servants. She went off to college, to Meredith first, and then to NC State, and met the love of her life. And they got married, and together they've been working to build a great company and to build a great community and to build a great state. They raised a beautiful family. Some of our children went to school with them and their children. And they have a wonderful family, their children and their spouses. And of course, we all know about SAS, and we all know about Dr. Goodnight. And of course, Ann's was Jim's most important partner as he built this great company that I tell the story of everywhere I go. The largest privately held software company in the world, one that's admired around the world. And I want to tell you, it's not only a great company technologically and in every other way, but it is regularly voted as the best place for employees to work, best company in the world. That tells you something about how they feel about education and working people. Thankfully for North Carolina, Ann, who plays an official role directing SAS's philanthropic endeavors, as well as the family's charitable work, those children of theirs and those that they've helped chose education as their interest. And Ann has made her life about education and a few other things I'll mention before I finish. I don't know where North Carolina would be if it weren't for Ann Goodnight. I started in government a pretty long time ago, as some of you know. I know what it was like. The first day after I was elected, I went down to the library in the governor's mansion, and I looked up the inaugural addresses of all the former governors. And I read every one of them. I wanted to see what the history was. And Terry Sanford had said when he was elected, and you know what a great education governor he was, he said that at the time he was elected, only half of North Carolina's children graduated from school. Now, not many of you here tonight knew that, but you know it now. And I say that to you simply to point out that over the years we've made a lot of progress. But of course, we still have a long way to go. SAS is a powerhouse, as you know. And all of us are very proud of that company that Ann has led in the field of education. And Jim is such a great leader. He is, of course, head of the Business Roundtable and their work in education all over America. What a great team and partners they are for our state. Ann has been involved at every step of the way. I remember when I was first governor, and when we focused on children who couldn't read, I had run for governor, hearing that a lot of children reached the third grade and couldn't read. And I couldn't believe it. And I was furious about it. So I ran on the platform of making sure that every child learned to read by the third grade. And we put in classroom assistants, teacher assistants. Some of you remember that. I regularly hear people say, well, my mama was one of them. Thank goodness for her and for all of the people who got involved then, because we made a big step. We saw the need. We took the action to do something about it, and we put the resources in. That didn't come cheap. Every time we've made steps in education, the good nights have been there. I remember when we started Smart Start, when we raised teacher pay to the national average. We went from 44th in the country to 20th in 4 years. It can be done if we want it done and the legislature will act. We have the money. But what you need to know is it was fine for us in politics to say something about it. It was good for others to take stands. You had to have the business community behind it. you had to have the recognized leaders in North Carolina that the legislature would listen to and we would all respond to. And we had it in Ann Goodnight and Jim and Sass. Thank goodness for them and all that they've done for early childhood education, for the early grades, the middle grades, high school, community colleges, higher education. You heard this young woman talk tonight, and you know what this can do for human beings. Folks, I want to tell you, not often. We talk about education's important economically. It's true. Let me tell you something else. It is important morally. Now, I heard that preacher at the royal wedding the other day talk about love. Did you all hear him? I knew him here, by the way. I knew what he was like. But it's true. And education is a moral issue. If we love people and if we love God, we should help our fellow man. And we should help children have a good education and a great future. And they can if we help them. The Goodnights believe that. They've done more than believe it and talk about it. They've done something about it. Ann Goodnight has been out there on the front lines. I will never forget the time when here in Wake County, and Wake County's gone a long way in improving its schools, but it hadn't always been there. And I remember one time we had a big bond issue on the ballot. And by the way now, if you believe in education, you got to get out and work on it. Now, I don't like these people that just go around and talk in highfalutin terms about how nice it is and how important it is and so forth. I want to see you work. I want to see you work for people who will support education in both parties. It ought to be a bipartisan issue, and it can be. But we had that bond issue on the ballot in Wake County. We thought it was going pretty good. And then all of a sudden, I think it was the Sunday before Election Day, maybe a week out, the Raleigh News Observer came out with a Sunday paper and an article that said that bond issue might very well fail. And we were shocked. And you know who pitched in to do something about it? Ann Goodnight and Jim and Sass. And we passed that bond issue in Wake County. And we can do those things all over North Carolina. But you got to have great leaders. That was not an easy thing to do. It was courageous. It was kind of risky. They did it. Ann Goodnight is such a marvelous leader. And I am so grateful to her. Every time I've worked with her, and I've worked with her on so many things, I've always just felt like I was honored to be a friend, to be a co-worker, and to learn from her, as we all have. It is so appropriate that we honor her tonight. But let me tell you something. Ann Goodnight has done more than just lead on education. Do any of you know much about our great Museum of Art here in Raleigh, North Carolina? Do you know why it's a great museum of art with some of the best art in America and throughout the world? It's because of the Goodnights. I know when we got that museum, I helped with it. They did a lot of it. I rode on an airplane one time with Ann I was going to New York City on something on education. I thought she was going on education, but she was going up there to buy art. I guess it was Jim's deep pockets or their deep pockets. Anyhow, she brought the art home. Thank goodness it's ours in North Carolina. And we're so thankful and so proud. So, folks, we've got a lady here tonight that is a marvelous, caring leader. The opposite of being big-headed, stuffed up with her own importance. They could be that way. A lot of people get that way when they have wealth. Ann Goodnight thinks like the average people she came from in rural North Carolina. She thinks about those people. I live on a farm. I live with a lot of poor people. I grew up with them. Those are the kind of people, among others, that she's helped all of her life. North Carolina would not be the state it is today, nor have the future that we have out in front of us if we do the right things without Ann Goodnight. And all of us have come here tonight, sitting at these tables, all dressed up, all excited. And thank goodness for these wonderful donors who are leading this work. We're here to honor Ann Goodnight. Ann, thank you. We know you've had so many honors, but you've done so much. And you stay at it. Every time I turn around, you're doing something more with Jim and with all of the resources you all have and the people that you inspire. So tonight I want to thank her. I want to honor her. And while I'm not governor anymore, I shall take the opportunity to declare that Ann Goodnight is North Carolina's #1 citizen and leader for education for all time to come. Ann, thank you. We're so proud of you, and we honor you here. Good.
Thank you. Ann, could you come up to the stage? Well, if Governor Hunt declared you as the #1 education citizen for all time, who am I to dispute that? Ann, I was struck by something the governor said when he said that he always felt honored to work with you, and I think that Mike Priddy and I and the entire board and the membership of the Public School Forum, we feel honored to be able to join with you tonight and celebrate you and all that you've done for education. So we do have, I've got an award here back for you that I want to give to you, and then I know you're going to give some remarks. We actually have a very lovely presentation award vase that your friend Mark Hewitt from Pittsburgh, who graciously donated a nice piece that he thought you would like. And so we're going to present that to you and take a photo and then have you give some remarks. So, Ann.
I feel quite blushed by everything that's been said tonight. Thank you all so much. It's been an extraordinary evening. So many friends, such a lifetime of relationships and projects and things to do, and I just love that you all are here tonight. I really appreciate it. So, Dr. J. Robinson was a great leader for education in North Carolina. As we know, he was a teacher, principal, superintendent, chair of the state board, and a leader at the University of North Carolina system. He was a champion for education, so I am indeed honored to receive this wonderful award in his name. His legacy continues through the Public School Forum's research, analysis, and advocacy. For more than 30 years, the Forum has shaped education policy in our state by raising public awareness, providing research-based information, and stimulating discussion. We are grateful and applaud the dedication and diligence of Keith Poston, the Forum staff, and Mike Pretty and the Forum Board for their important contributions for public education in North Carolina. So I grew up in a time when the issue was equality in our education system. We came to understand that separate was not equal. Today, we recognize that being equal is not enough. Equality is fairness. Equity is giving everyone what they need to succeed. When we think about educational equity for North Carolina public school students, we must strive to ensure that every child has the opportunity and the supports to realize his or her full potential. So as we know, in 1997, the North Carolina Supreme Court ruled unanimously that the state's children have a constitutional right to the opportunity to receive a sound basic education. Although some progress has been made, budget cuts and competing interests have caused North Carolina to struggle to live up to the requirements of that ruling. That constitutional ruling obligates the state to ensure every student has full access to a quality education that prepares them for the jobs and opportunities of the future. It is our responsibility to see that our students are performing at grade level and leave high school fully prepared for college and careers in this global economy. Furthermore, we must recognize that a sound basic education today requires the mastery of much more difficult standards and skills than was required 20 years ago. Changes in the economy have ratcheted up the skills and education attainments needed to earn a decent living. Meeting these challenges requires a sustained focus on educational equity. The quality of an education is not only key to the individual's success, but it's also key to the social and economic success of our state. Our state's growth depends on the quality of our citizens, and the quality of our citizens depends on the quality of our education system. A significant roadblock to achieving educational equity is our current patchwork of education policies and programs. The lack of an aligned, comprehensive education continuum leads to the dysfunctional development of the talent our state needs. And that talent is our greatest asset for the future. Talent comes from all sectors of society, all races, all genders, and all income levels. It is unacceptable to allow a child's success to be determined by race, socioeconomic status, or zip code. We must infuse equity into a comprehensive education continuum that ensures all students, rural and urban, can achieve their full academic potential. Every student, including low-income students, students of color, English language learners, and students with disabilities, should have the confidence to know that they can become what they want to be in their career future. All children must have the opportunities they need to have a fair shot of upward mobility. To achieve this vision, we need to confront the reality that North Carolina has significant achievement gaps, particularly among children of poverty and children of color. While our high school graduation rate has risen somewhat, that rate belies the fact that only 49% of those graduates are truly career and college ready. For those who are economically disadvantaged, that percentage drops to 34%. And for those with limited English proficiency, that percentage drops to 15%. The recently released NAEP reading and math scores are generally flat across the country. This is a disappointing reminder that we are making little progress in transforming education. The achievement gaps that exist along racial and socioeconomic lines have for far too long dominated our education profile. This disparity starts in elementary school and only widens in middle and high school. The NAEP scores should be a catalyst for change. They should cause us to examine existing policies to better understand what is effective and what isn't working. They should propel us to take steps to positively disrupt our education system with one goal in mind: to do better for all students. While we must recognize there is no single solution to achieve equity, attaining equity requires improvements throughout the entire education continuum. It starts at the beginning with our youngest children, where achievement gaps that fuel future skills gaps begins. Low-income children lag well behind children from higher-income families by the time they enter kindergarten. The best way to reduce those gaps is to increase access to high-quality early learning programs. Young children most likely to become successful students are those who enter kindergarten with a solid set of school readiness skills, knowledge of letters, numbers, shapes, and phonic sounds. Successful early learners have also begun developing foundational cognitive skills or executive functioning. Key to laying all of these foundations for student success are our high-quality NC Pre-K and other early learning programs. Our NC Pre-K program is one of the top-ranked in the country, but unfortunately, all children who are eligible do not have access to it, primarily because of lack of funding. This has to change. But the work does not stop there. We know that third grade reading proficiency is one of the single best indicators for student success. Ninth graders who were reading proficiently at the end of third grade are 3 times more likely to pursue post-secondary work. Conversely, children who were not reading proficiently at the end of third grade are 4 times more likely to drop out of school. Again, the recent NAEP scores show we have much work to do, as only 39% of North Carolina's 4th graders are reading proficiently. We must continue our focus on this key education milestone and implement approaches to identify and work with struggling readers as soon as possible to keep them on the road to success. To achieve equity in our schools, the recruitment and retention of effective teachers and school leaders is crucial. Research shows that effective teachers are the most important factor contributing to student achievement. In reality, however, teacher quality is inequitably distributed. The students with the greatest needs tend to have the less effective teachers. Furthermore, more underperforming schools experience greater teacher turnover, which can be harmful to disadvantaged students. There are programs and strategies underway that should help level this playing field but it really, there is no silver bullet, and it's really going to take all of us to make sure it happens. There are some working to build stronger partnerships between districts and educator preparation programs. These partnerships promote better understanding of what is actually happening in classrooms while incorporating best practices supported by research to increase educator effectiveness. On another front, we should design career paths and compensation structures to reward and support our most effective teachers and school leaders. Incentives to stay in struggling schools are crucial to promote continuity and stability, especially given that the neediest schools are the most difficult to staff. We must recruit and retain outstanding teachers who also reflect the racial makeup of the community, because research confirms that having teachers of color has a positive impact on students of color. Finally, in this day and time, the need for more professional counselors, nurses, and other support staff to assist in the school workday is more apparent than ever, especially in the lives of our students and teachers. These professionals are either not available or have such large caseloads they cannot be effective. In sum, education is the best path out of poverty. Recognizing the barriers created by poverty and race, and making a commitment to take action to provide that sound basic education for all our children is our collective responsibility and their constitutional right. To have high expectations for every child and a deep understanding of equity and inclusion is the ultimate test of who we are and what we value as a society. Thank you very much.
I believe that you now have a much deeper understanding of what leadership really looks like. Someone who's dedicated their entire life and expanded it through their family and through their associates to strive to make this the greatest state in America. And we are so proud to have the privilege of honoring you. And we all need to embrace your call to action. We shouldn't leave here without planning to do something tomorrow morning. We don't have to wait till next week. We appreciate Jim and all the family members being here. We appreciate President Spellings, Governor Hunt, and Lucy for bringing those words of insight and respect for Ann. And I wish that every one of you could be up here for just 30 seconds and look out across this audience. We've used the word family a couple times. You know, family includes people who get along every day, and sometimes they don't get along at all. But as Lucy said, they're still family. But we here all care about public education. We wouldn't be here if we didn't. So thank you. It's a heartfelt thank you to every one of you who is a part of North Carolina's push to help ensure that our children have the greatest chance possible. I want to say thank you again to the sponsors. Keith has already spelled out the importance of what they do to help make something like this come about. but more importantly, what helps the forum work all year long. And safe travel. I hope each of you get home safely and have a good evening, and let's go to work in the morning.